Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a podcast about knitting, weaving, yarning from the southwest of France. Welcome to everyone. I hope you all had a lovely week. I did. I expect this episode to be much more reasonable size-wise than the previous one. So yes, I hope you will enjoy. I mainly have knitting with a very exciting pattern release that I will talk about in a minute. I also want to share some plans weaving-wise because I kind of need to set a goal to myself, and I also have a little bit of cross-stitch towards the end of the episode. I will also have my little recommendation section this week at the end. Timestamps to all the different sections of the podcast are in the description down below, as well as links to everything that I mentioned. So if you want to look up anything or skip a part of the podcast, feel free to jump ahead. I'm gonna jump right away with knitting, and if you watched last week's episode, then you will know that I was working on a new sock design, and it is completed and it is now available on Ravelry. These are the watering socks. They are a pair of socks with... You don't say. These are a pair of socks with a geometric texture cable-y panel down the front, and I have also repeated it at the back of the leg, but you do what you want. And yes, I have already showed one completed sock last week, so yeah, I'm just going to quickly say, well, it's cabling, it's seed stitch, and yeah, it's a perfectly symmetrical pattern, so it's easy to track where you are. It's engaging. The second sock really flew off my needle, and I am really proud of it, and I really love it. I think it will be very nice for solid yarns, but also those kind of very lightly, I'm showing you the saw, very lightly speckled, but still tonal yarns. The beautiful yarn I use for the sample is Black Elephant Sock in her sea glass colorway, and I think it just worked perfectly. So yeah, these are up on Ravelry. There is discount for the release of the pattern. You get 15% off until this Sunday, which is the 21st of January, and you don't need any code. The sale should work just by adding the pattern to your cart. So I think of all three sock patterns that I released, this is definitely my favorite one. I might say that of all new patterns though, so but I think that this is really something. It is something that's special to me. I really like seed stitch. Is the stitch that I always preferred ever since I started knitting, and I really like my little points. Yeah. If you have any questions, of course, you can check the Ravelry page. I try to put as many details as I can on the notes, and also feel free to leave a comment and tell me what you think and whatever question you might have. I'm going to continue with the things I've been knitting, which aren't personal designs. I have started a new sock, which is going to be a gift, and this is what I have so far. So beautiful self-striping yarn is Stray Cat Socks in her Mold Wine colorway, and this is a yarn I received as a gift for my birthday last year from my boyfriend, and well, I'm knitting him socks with the yarn he gifted me. I'll definitely have more than enough for both a pair for him and for me, so it is I believe it's called her Deluxe base, which is the one with cashmere in it, and it's actually my first time knitting a cashmere based sock. I think it's AT2010 merino cashmere nylon. I usually don't get cashmere bases because I'm not cold. I actually get hot really easily on my feet and everywhere, so I don't usually need the cashmere bits, but I must say that I really enjoy it. It's super soft for once. You do notice the difference even with just 20% of cashmere, and it has that really lovely, now you can see, really lovely bit of halo to it. And yeah, the mulled wine, I love all of her colorways. I could get all of them. Yeah, mulled wine was one that I instantly loved, and it's burgundy, gold, and charcoaly grey, and it's knitting up beautifully. I have a bit of a ladder. It's not really a ladder. When my socks are blocked, I can't tell, but when I'm knitting them, depending on the needles I'm using, I can see. I almost always magic hook my socks. Because I like 9-inch, well, it's a bit, but I don't mind them. But my gauge with them is, I end up making massive socks when I knit on 9-inch circulars. So I mostly magic loop. And I don't really get ladders, but I actually have tighter stitches. But it evens out when I block them, so it's fine. For my boyfriend, I'm doing 60 stitches on 2.5 millimeter, which I need to get over his foot. The problem is if I do 64, even on 2.25, it's too big. So I found that 60 stitches on 2.5 is good, but yeah, the stitches are a bit bigger. So yeah, I'm afraid it's not as sturdy as my super tight 9/10 inch, 10 stitches per inch sock gauge that I can get sometime. So I used the contrasting here, and this is actually a yarn that I dyed myself and that I used to knitting socks that I offered him at Christmas, and it matched the grey, so I think it looks nice. I did a German short row. I intending to do an afterthought heel, but then I got lazy. I want to gift him these for his birthday, and it's coming quite quickly. So I didn't want to have the tubes and then say, oh, I need to cut and blah blah blah. So I did the German short row, and it works just nicely. The only thing, when you're doing a short row heel on self-striping, it's not as perfect as if you do an afterthought heel, because yeah, you can see the last row of the heel, you kind of need to get back to the main yarn, and so you have a little bit of a thing that's offset here. It's more visible on one side than on the other, so I guess just wear that side out. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't make much of a long leg, but that's long enough. And yeah, I need to get cracking on those. My next work in progress is going to be really hard to show. It's my Ginsberg shrug / cardigan, which is a pattern by Nora Gone, and it's big chunky cardigan that has a very interesting construction. And well, I'm going to show you the right side. It's going to be a good idea. So I finished the back. So this is the completely back with this beautiful textured and cabley panels. I finished the back, which ended in a point here. I picked up for the fronts, and I was a bit afraid when I read the instruction to do it, because usually I'm getting better at picking up stitches, but sometimes it just doesn't want to work. And I was a bit afraid that with the bulky yarn, this would have looked horrible, especially since you need to pick up. So this is a full front, and you need to do it twice. So you need to pick up quite a lot of stitches. And luckily enough, the pattern is very clear as to how you do that. It tells you, getting trapped in my yarn, it tells you how many stitches to pick per row, and then you have to add some yarn overs in the mix. And in the end, I'm quite happy with it. It looks bad on the wrong side. It's quite, you can't really see, but at some places it looks like there's holes and stuff. But on the right side, it looks fairly good, which is what matters, right? Are you going to blind me now, son? Oh. Yeah. Gonna slightly go to that side. It looks very neat on the right side. And so there's a fold line someplace. This point in the back actually stands a bit lower on the back of your neck, and the two fronts fold over your shoulder, and I'm not exactly sure where the fold line is. Assuming it's going to do something like that, but yes. So I was quite happy with how quickly the back went. But now I realize that the fronts are kind of the major piece, because you have around 60 stitches twice, and you're working them simultaneously, and you kind of have to make quite a big chunk. You basically make 2 chart repeats, and I've done a quarter of that. So yes. Every time I show it to you, because when I look at it, I don't know what's up with me, but I only want to work this at night. That's such a bad idea, because the color is quite dark. It's this beautiful olive green, and it looks awful in the dark. So every time I show it to you, it looks so much prettier. And I'm so happy. Oh, it would look quite nice with my dress. A bit too Halloween, no. I need to stop trying to make color combos that look like a holiday. But yes. I am really enjoying it, and I think I'm going to try to focus on it a little bit more, just so that I get it done, because I have so many garment plans that I need to get cracking. So the yarn I'm using is Drops Alaska, which is 100% wool, and I like it. It's quite loosely plied, which is maybe what could be bothering me, but I mean, I'm just being picky. Yeah, it's quite, I have hair everywhere. It's quite, you can see, yeah, it's quite loosely plied, but it still has, I think, a good enough stitch definition. I don't think it will peel. It doesn't while I'm knitting with it, and I mean, I'm kind of messing with it a lot considering how big it is. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I love the color, I love the stitch definition, and yeah, it's quite a nice things to do working on bigger needles. So yeah, you have 2 balls of yarn, 1 for each front, and of course I got them completely tangled. How pale do I look with that sunlight on me? I'm not pale, I swear. It's just my natural complexion. Yeah. Inspired by Nora Gone and Gone. I think it was Brooklyn Tweed Fall 17. I really like the Winter 18 Brooklyn Tweed new collection, especially the cardigan by Nora Gone, which I think is called Geyser. I think you say Geyser. And the car passes. I really like it. I also really like the sweater that has this really fun 3D texture here. It has a name that sounds Japanese, and I think it's designed by Gordon Johnston. If you haven't seen Brooklyn Tweed Winter Collection, just have a look. They're usually yeah, they're usually really nice textured, interesting patterns. My Gainsbury cardigan sits in this massive tote bag that I got from a fabric shop, and it's just ridiculous. I didn't keep track of how many balls I've used. I know I've ordered like 15 because it has about 70 meters a ball, I think. But I think I'm going to need less. I always need less yarn than what the pattern calls for, with one big exception, which was my linen tank top, which needed much more than I thought it would because of my very tight row gauge. Because linen don't stretch, so yeah, that's what happened. But I will say at the end and keep track on Ravelry how many meters of yarn I've actually used. It's going to be a heavy garment, but I realized that I really gravitate towards sweaters that kind of work like jackets. You know, this kind of outerwear for the transitional seasons, which are most of French seasons anyway. It's never really cold. It's always meh. I wear a lot of ponchos, for example. So yeah, I have one coat, I have one raincoat, and then I have jackets or big stuff that looks like blankets. So this is going to be perfect for me. My last work in progress is the chevron blanket that I'm knitting as a wedding gift. And I'm enjoying it a lot. So I always grab it. I knit only a big chunk of my days, and yeah, that's a bit silly because I'm not that in a hurry to finish it, but at the same time I guess I don't like having that many big projects on the needles, so that's why. But yes, this is the chevron blanket by Min Philip, which I have adapted to be an adult sized blanket. This is what I have. I've made 3 out of my 5 colors, and I've just added the 4th. So yeah, it's this blanket, which this chevron pattern is garter stitch. It's using more yarn than I thought it would. So I'm actually quite eager to finish one repeat, to measure, and to know exactly how much yarn I use to make one repeat, and to kind of see how much more I need. But yeah, I'm really liking my colors. So the yarn I'm using is an acrylic yarn. So it's a gift blanket for people that, like, even I don't want to hand wash a blanket. That's ridiculous. So yeah, acrylic. And it's a French brand, Phildar. And it's their Charly yarn, which is 100% acrylic. It comes in 20,000 colors. And it's nice and soft. It has that acrylic shine, but it's not squicky, which I really like. I feel like there's something, when you start knitting, you're going to end up with acrylic and you're going to end up with wooden needles. And that's the worst. So yeah, I'm using Addies. Are those Addies? Yes, they're Addies. 4.5 millimeters in 150 centimeters cable. And it's sliding smoothly. It's really pleasant to knit with. So yeah, I'm really happy with my yarn choices. And yeah, I think it's a really good blanket yarn. So I'm happy that I can enjoy the beautiful colors of that yarn by making blankets. And I am using 5 colors. The first one is lin, literally linen, which is this beigey thing. This is carbon, which is it's black. It's dark grey, but it's black. And this is craie, chalk, which is cream. I've started adding cuir, copper. No, leather, but it's a coppery leather. And my last color is a grey, this one, which is flannel. So yeah, I've been going really fast on it, considering how big it is. So I'm going to finish one repeat, measure stuff, get more yarn, and then take my time, because I only need to have it done by May. Okay, that is it for knitting. I want to talk a little bit about weaving. Yes, I'm going to weave. Now I'm making a promise to myself, and I think that if I say it on the podcast, then maybe I will do it. I want to have my rigid headloom warped next week. Someday. Maybe the week after. No, next. You see how I'm... next week. Rigid headloom warped to weave a big wrap blanket. I've already made a couple of woven scarves using hand-dyed yarns, which were really nice. And I just like woven fabric, especially using fingering weight hand-dyed yarns. So I have quite a lot of scraps that would suit this project. I don't know if I have enough, but I definitely think I have enough to start. So things like this, you know, this was from my boho blush. This was from my behind the scenes shawl. This is a single. These were socks. This is the yarn I used for my design I just showed you. I have so many scraps for socks. The thing is, I barely use half of a skein to make socks. So I wish people would all offer 50-gram skeins. But then I don't mind, because then I can make scraps project like I plan on doing with that hand-woven wrap. I want to do that. And yes, make a commitment that next week I will show you a warped loom. Warped, not necessarily that all the ends will be attached to the heddle, will be threaded, but maybe I won't have all the ends attached to the loom. But at least it will be warped, which is what is the most troublesome thing, because I need to go into the living room and make like a fort with chairs and things. But I want to use my full width. I have a rigid heddloom, which is 60-ish centimeters wide. So it's going to be quite a lot of yarn. But yes, this is the plan. This is happening. Now I said it, so I have to do it. Like I've ever done everything that I talk about on this podcast. But hey, you know, it doesn't hurt trying. Finally, I am happy to share that I have a cross-stitch finished object, which is Bimi, I don't know. I don't watch Adventure Time. This is a character from Adventure Time that I'm making for my boyfriend, and my boyfriend calls him differently every time. So I don't know how I'm supposed to say it. But I'm going to go with Bimio, even though it's BMO. Bmo. I'm gonna... Okay. This is a pattern by Stitchering on Etsy, which has nice geeky pop culture cross-stitch patterns, and this is in her Adventure Time series. And yes, my boyfriend really likes yellow, so I picked up a yellow Ida and I stitched Bimi on it, and I enjoyed it. It was a bit long, like the big chunks of things like this middle part here, but once I was committed to finishing it, I did, and I really like the finished result. It's cute. It's kind of cute. I finished the back like a savage. That looks so bad. It doesn't look as awful in real life, I promise. I just don't know. I couldn't be bothered using a different fabric and make it all pretty like I usually do. Sorry, Maris. It's not really a gift, it's a gift. It's not really a gift, so just have your thing and don't complain about the finishing. Doesn't matter, it's just gonna sit there like this. But yeah, the fabric was still really stiff. I found that this colored Ida was much stiffer than the white one I used for other projects. So it was a bit, I didn't quite know what to do, so I just tucked everything as neatly as I could, and we'll just look at the front, right? Yeah. I want to get going with the Sleepy Fox cross stitch that I showed you last week, because I think that if I'm going to put it on a hoop because it's going to go so much better, and I think that I will be able to have it done in not such a long time. That's it for the making content of this week. Yes, the thing is, there's one thing I've been working on that I can't show you because I've been planning different kinds of videos for the channel, so that's ongoing and that's a secret. I want to end this episode with just to share what I've been reading, watching lately. I have paused reading It by Stephen King for a little bit, because when I went on holiday, a book like this just didn't fit my bag. So I let it here and I started reading this, which is The Magical Condition by Phildar Charly. I have no clue if that's available in English or not. It's not translated, so it is French, so my guess is it's not translated in English. But that doesn't really matter because I don't like it. This editor, which is Zulma, is a French editor that handpicks the authors that they publish. They're usually picking foreign authors that like have a really strong identity, so to say, either because they're like really in a really obscure genre, like something not really fantastical or something weird. The keyword is weird. It's all weird. And so this is a French author, and I can see why they published that, because it's kind of in their vibe, but it's the kind of weird I don't like, which is the pretentious one. I can't really sum up the story. It starts with a student in Paris, a Greek student in Paris that meets his professor, which is a philosophy professor, and then in the class there's also a Swedish girl that's trapped in some sort of cult, and then they go on the mountain to try to find the girl's mother's body and froze it so that her soul can be put back in. I don't know. I don't understand. It's the thing is, what bothers me, it's this type of work that just shoves intelligence in your face. And it's like, oh, I'm so smart. I'm using such complicated words. I'm just going to present you a character, and he's going to introduce himself by making a 2-page long monologue on his philosophical view of the world and of reality and his scientific work on particles, and it's annoying me. Yeah, it's just on the wrong side of the thing, if you want. There's a fine line between making something unique and clever and making something pretentious and empty in substance. And I feel like this is to the wrong side of the line. I don't like it. So even if you can read French, no, don't read that. However, on a complete different scale and type of things, I started watching Outlander. Philosophical, intense, super smart, talking about Descartes and philosophy of the living. No? Outlander? Yes! I haven't watched it for so long because I thought it was really girly. I thought it was kind of this type of drama girly thing. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I like that. You know, if it's just that, I'm like, okay, it's like watching a rom-com. Sure. Yeah, it's fun. So I thought it was that. I've since finished season 1, and for those of you who watched Outlander, probably remember what happens at the end of season 1. Ever since I started, I told my boyfriend, I don't know if you're going to like it. It's not girly, but it's still kind of soft thing. And then end of season 1 happened, and I was like, you're not going to like it. Because it's too harsh for you, love. That's how I feel. But yeah, I like it. I got hooked into it. I'm really pleasantly surprised by how well it's filmed. It's directed like a movie. You know, I really like when a TV series tries to not have a generic film direction, you know. Usually the camera is just there as a witness, you know, standard shot. No play on light, no play on focus, no play on frame, whatever, just shot the action as plainly as possible. And it's not the case for Outlander. It's quite well filmed, especially the first episode of season 1. I was quite surprised, like, you know, when she flips to the past, when she walks in the woods, I was like, oh that's surprisingly detailed, and I really liked it. Characters are nice. The actor that plays Frank / Jonathan Randall, you know, I've seen him playing Brutus in Rome. I've seen him in Game of Thrones, and I was like, oh yeah, you nice, you do the part. I think his name is Tobias Menzies. I didn't know him that much, but I must say, it's quite impressive what he does in Outlander. You know, it's always yay or nay when an actor has to play different parts, different characters, but still being himself, basically. And when it works, like in Orphan Black, and in that case with that actor in Outlander, it's really good. Works really well. He's really convincing. I've just started season 2. Had lots of fun with the Paris moment. The thing is, I'm watching it on Netflix, and Netflix knows I'm in France. So when the actors are talking French, Netflix doesn't give me subtitles because it assumes that I'm supposed to understand French. Well, I do. I don't understand a Scottish speaking. I mean, it's hard enough to understand a Scottish when he's speaking English. When he's speaking French, And it's just sort of funny when really it's impossible to decipher. It's impossible to understand. And in front of them, they have French actors that are like, yeah, totally understanding them. Like, no, you can't possibly have understood that. It's not working. I just need to get used to it, I guess. But yes, that's it for this week's crafty content and completely ramble content. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I wish you a very happy day, night and week, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.